Hello and welcome back to our show 31 Minutes. Today we have a special episode. We will be bringing you a number of reports covering different events on campus, from health and sports to music and arts. Starting off with the good news for the AUC community. The university has implemented a new nutrition unit called Visita al Ghada for the first time on campus. The details in the next report with Dalia Ashraf.
In a new phase of healthcare service for AUC community, the university has created a plan to help its students and staff in raising their awareness about nutrition in order to have a healthy lifestyle. This is why AUC launched for the first time a new nutrition process unit called Visita al Ghada, which will be opened every Thursday for free.
Our plan to increase the health awareness throughout the community, to make some sort of preventive medicine, which is one of our goals in the AUC medical department. The preventive medicine to prevent disease from happening, because we have treating the disease and on the other side preventive medicine.
This nutrition process unit is not only about a weight loss, but also it is about a full body assessment in order to prevent diseases.
After doing the nutritional assessment, we have to proceed to the diagnosis. And the diagnosis includes the analysis of the nutritional assessment, and we will see where do you belong to, whether there is a predisposition to a certain disorder, whether you are a normal, whether you are an athlete, and then we will plan a certain diet that is personalized according to your needs.
Medical department at AUC also organizes monthly lectures and workshops in the field of nutrition. One of them was titled Nutrition Myths and Facts. At the end of this event, a healthy lunch was served to the attendees in a trial to offer tasty food with healthy ingredients.
As you see, everybody was interested to ask so many questions about dietary habits and about eating, what type of food is good for you, what type of food is not, the combination of foods like مثلا yogurt and lemon and stuff that we think that would be helpful to lose weight, or others that would promote gaining weight. So I mean, everybody was involved, as you see, and everybody was here, and the food was lovely and healthy.
I think some of the important things were talked about, like amino acids for athletes and how they need to make sure they take in enough protein, and some good sources of the important proteins that we need as athletes are taken from beef sources and dairy products. This was very useful and interesting to me.
There is a mobile application which is provided by a startup company for nutrition service called Stay Fit, in cooperation with AUC in order to ease the communication with AUC members.
New application here, Stay Fit, I think it's a very good idea to be implemented. I think it's very creative, to have an application that organizes your food.
The perfect mind and healthy body is not just a quote, but it's a fact. This is why AUC decided to apply it in its community, in order to present to the society healthy generations with high-ranked education. Dalia Ashraf, AUCTV.
Physical activity is a main part of the student lives on campus, but one sport in particular provides them with benefits that go beyond improving their physical well-being. In the upcoming report, Salma Nassar has more.
During the semester, the shuffle of classes and exams can make a lot of students feel anxious and stressed. To help the students cope with the stress, AUC arranged a yoga event with famous yogi Farah Nofal to teach students the basic yoga moves that can help them feel more relaxed and refreshed.
I personally advise students and everyone who has exams or they're stressed in their day-to-day life to take some time to practice yoga, and it could be any kind, whatever caters for their preference. So it could be the physical and power yoga, something really intense. It could also be something really mild, such as yin yoga, where you're just stretching and breathing. So take what you need, but try to squeeze some time just to unwind from everything that's going, all like the thoughts, and your mind's just doing like a lot of stuff. So try to kind of zone out by doing that.
Yoga is regaining popularity as it's a sport that not only improves your body but also puts you in a better state of mind. If practiced regularly, yoga can help students focus better in their classes without being distracted by unnecessary thoughts. What makes the event appealing to many students is the fact that yoga can be practiced by everyone, regardless of their fitness level.
If you're really inflexible, then you should start yoga. If you're overweight, it doesn't matter. Like a lot of girls especially, they come to me and they're like, can we like practice yoga if we're like a bit overweight or if we're chubby? I'm like, your body is your body, and you don't have to look or label yourself in a certain way to practice yoga.
Overthinking can be draining for some students. With the midterm exams approaching, it's refreshing for them to practice yoga while enjoying the sun. Taming the mind and getting rid of negative thoughts isn't an easy thing. But if the students can achieve it, this can help them become much more calm and productive. This is Salma Nasser for AUCTV, Cairo.
The AUC alumna and international mezzo-soprano Jalal Hadidi performed an outstanding concert in celebration of the AUC centennial. More in the coming report. AUC Tahrir Culture Center has become a platform where different forms of arts take place. An outstanding musical operetta was performed at the Ewart Hall in AUC Tahrir campus, under the maestro John Baboukas, with the Cairo Festival Orchestra and the international mezzo-soprano Jalal Hadidi.
This is in the context of our centennial year, and what better way to be still at the beginning of the year than with this great artistic performance by one of our terrific alumni artists. She is an international artist. She lives in Germany, she performs there, she's performed in the United States, and here she started her career at the Cairo Opera House. She's represents the best of Egypt in the world and the best of AUC.
Jalal Hadidi is an AUC alumna who graduated in 2005 and became the first Egyptian opera singer to perform Carmen in France, where the French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife welcomed her in person. It takes a lot of preparations, dedication, and effort to come up with the synergy and harmony that was shown on the stage.
A long process that we go through in order to get to this place. You know, we go through all the rehearsal and we worry about things and things don't work. And then you get to the performance and there's a magic that happens. Terrific in particular when we have a soloist like Jalal El-Hadidi who's of that caliber, because it makes it so much easier. She sings and she holds the stage, and when she sings, she does it in such a way that you know where every next thing is going to be. I become almost superfluous.
It's not my first time, but it's my first time to have my own concert, and it's also a centennial event. I'm very proud and quite humbled actually by the fact that I can come back and give a performance to my AC community.
This is Daniel Moore reporting for AUCTV, Cairo. At the AUC Old Campus, 7 innovative students showcased art designs that implemented musical lyrics from the era of the Egyptian Revolution 1919. More in this report from Mansoura Kamal.
Here at AUC Old Campus, where it all started 100 years ago, 7 creative students showcases modern designs that reflect on the Egyptian Revolution 1919. What makes these pieces significant is the way that each art emanates a musical aura to it.
This is what it's come to be, was inspired by the 1919 revolution, and it reflects on the legacy of the music specifically at this era. The arts at this era were very rebellious, and they were very interesting in a sense of being a tool of resistance, but quite hidden. You would find hidden messages like Ya Balah Zaghloul, or I'm waiting for Zaghalil, or something like Masrina Watanna Saadaha Amalna Saad. They were all reference for Saad Zaghloul, who was Zaim al-Ummah, or who was the trigger for the revolution to begin with.
He was certainly the torch that lit a fire in the hearts of the Egyptian community. He became a disturbance to the British occupation, and when he refused to end his political commotion, he was then exiled to Malta and later to Seychelles. This did not deter the purpose of the Egyptian community, but gave them more strength to carry out what he had started.
سعد سعد يحيى سعد 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 يحيى سعد اخرجوا من بلادنا اخرجوا من بلادنا اخرجوا من بلادنا اخرجوا من بلادنا نموت نموت ويحيى الوطن نموت ويحيى الوطن.
During this period, artists such as Sayyid Darwish and Badia Khairi embedded words of resistance in their music indirectly, as if they should mention the name Saad Zaghloul, they could be punished, or worse, imprisoned.
There is one that's huge when you're approaching the main gallery, and it overlooks the people from a bird point of view as dots. And the dots are almost alike in the main hue, but are very different in their shades and tints. Creates the map of Egypt and echoes the Sayyid Darwish. You have to take a step back to see these images, but if you're close, you will not see it. It will just look like a bunch of dots.
Looking back at these pieces, it shows a similar identity, as art is still being used as a form of communication and resistance in terms of the aftermath of both 1919 and 2011 revolution. This is Mansoura Kamal, AUCTV, Cairo.
AUC Library has an increasing number of precious books. More about the role of the Rare Books and Special Collection Department in the next story by Toa Omar.
The library at the American University in Cairo is one of the oldest in Egypt that maintains a variety of rare books and special items. The full collections of the late historian Gaballah Ali Gaballah and Mustafa Amin, the founder of Akhbar al-Yom newspaper, are among the latest items in the Rare Books and Special Collections library.
How do we decide whether it goes in the main library or our library? If it is something that is rare, it's particularly old, we don't have another copy, and especially if it's about Egypt or the region, this is our specialization, so naturally it would go to us.
The majority of the collections are donated, and directly after receiving them, the preserving and the conserving procedures begin. The lab staff starts by cleaning the items. Then they restore and protect the fragile pieces using different tools and techniques.
There's a whole team working on this, starting from unpacking, then cleaning up and dusting off. The second phase is trying to sort. We have a team of researchers, of staff who sort according to the subject of the book, the year and different criteria, what goes where.
After that, the items are catalogued to make them retrieval and available for researchers around the globe.
What has increased is our reputation, that people realize we are a place that is going to preserve what we're given, that we're going to make the most of it, the best of it, and that it is an excellent way of preserving the memory and the heritage of a family, of an individual, of whoever it was who collected that thing in the first place.
Following the preserving and archiving procedures, the Rare Books Library usually organizes tours to let students and visitors know more about its precious items.
I didn't even know we had such a variety of things in the AUC library. I'll definitely take advantage of it now that I know it.
The main goal of the Rare Books and the Special Collections Library is to keep and protect unique materials for both existing and future generations. Tuqa Omar, AUCTV, Cairo.
Music is a common language between people. It's a language that does not speak in particular words, but rather speaks in emotions. It gives soul to the universe. My guest today is an icon in music and arts. The choral conductor, music composer, and music professor. A specialist in the performance of medieval and Renaissance music. He was the first doctoral student ever permitted to submit an original composition. Welcome with me, Professor John Baboukas. It's our pleasure having you with us here today. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on your last concert that you've conducted, performed by Jalal Hadidi. It was a great success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You've almost dedicated your life to music, and once in an interview you've said, and I quote, I've always done music, but I wasn't actually thinking I was going to do music for a living. But now you're investing on it in different levels. What was the passion that held behind your passion to music, towards music? The reason behind your passion towards music?
I have always been musical. I've always been doing music, but when I was little, it did not occur to me that you could actually do that for a living. And so I went to college, and I was, a reader. I wanted to be an English major. I was going to study Shakespeare, and I did, but I kept taking music courses. And eventually the music courses sort of took over everything else. My father thought it was a very bad idea to be an English major until he heard about music, and then he thought English was a wonderful idea. You're going to do music, right? I mean, you're going to do English, right, Johnny? It was a double major for a while, and then I abandoned it, and I did a degree in composition. And I took a couple of years working as a night watchman while I was working on creating a portfolio of compositions, and I gradually got interested in conducting because when you are a conductor, you are working with ensemble, and you're learning how to compose for all the instruments together or for large groups of voices and instruments together. And then I got interested in conducting for its own right. First in choral, then in orchestral conducting. I did both as a master's student. Then I went back to a choral major because when you do choral music, you can do music as, the orchestra comes into existence about 300 years ago. Whereas when you're doing music for voices, that's as early as we can get that the music is actually written down. So I took an interest in early music, in medieval and Renaissance music. And then finally I had to stop going to school and making a living. So I did in fact work for many years specifically as a choral conductor, teaching and conducting and directing many different kinds of choirs. But it started that, it's not that it's not that I wasn't doing music or that I wasn't interested in music, it's just that it somehow never connected for me that was something that a real person could actually do for a living. And I've got by with it pretty well. you know.
Yes, and for sure you've attained the Doctor of Music degree in conducting from the Jacob School of Music at Indiana University. And you were actually the first doctoral student to submit the first an original composition.
The Jacob School of Music, you know, this is the largest school of music in the world. There were, when I was there were 6 orchestras, student orchestras. There were 18 choirs. They would do 6 operas every year, entirely student cast, student orchestra, student singers, double cast. So there were 2 different sets of people singing all the roles. And there were 1,500 concerts every year. Can you imagine? There were like 3 every night. During the weekend, on Saturdays, they would start at 10 a.m. and they'd go till 10 p.m. It was a wonderful way to immerse yourself entirely in music. Now, of course, they were all different kinds of degree. You could take a degree in any of the orchestral or band instruments. There was a degree in voice, of course, and you could also study composition or musicology, ethnomusicology, other pursuits. So, of course, there were people writing compositions. But if you were a conductor, you were supposed to write a dissertation specifically about, normally we would choose a particular piece and say, these are the conducting problems with this piece. I didn't want to write one of those. I made the argument that when you are composing a piece for chorus and orchestra, you are demonstrating your knowledge as a conductor. And I had to go to the composition department and get their permission. But since I'd done the degree in composition, they said, well, show us some of your music. And I brought them some of the pieces I'd written, and they said, oh, okay, that's fine. I got the permissions from different places, which was, in a way, kind of a surprise. They're sticklers at you know, the Indiana School of Music, but they permitted this, and so yes, I was the first person in the performance doctorate, the Doctor of Music, in conducting, who was in choral conducting, who was permitted to submit an original composition instead of a document, a dissertation. And then, instead of a defense, I conducted a performance of the piece, and this was considered to be my defense of the dissertation.
Okay. And then you've moved to Egypt. You've been a conductor at different universities, but in Egypt you've been here for almost 15 years.
Almost 15.
Yeah, and you were as a professor and director of the music department. Since you've been here, there were almost 120 students per semester taking music courses. But now we have almost 600 students taking music courses.
A little bit more than 600.
A little bit more. That's even great.
In a typical semester, yes.
So can you please tell me, can you describe the evolvement over the years?
When I first came here, there had been one full-time professor in music, but he was not a tenure-line professor. He was an instructor, and he was reappointed from year to year, and he was quite good. He was actually the director of the Cairo Choral Society, and he founded them. And they'd been in existence for 15, more than that, almost not quite 20 years when I came. No, more than 20, 22 years, I guess, when I came. So there was him, and there were 4 adjunct faculty, but it was kind of a sleepy program. And it was because the university felt that music should be part of the core curriculum and something that you would teach the students to have to better appreciate music. So I got here, and I felt we could put more into what we were teaching, that we could teach to a higher standard. And it was really a very interesting experience when I first came, because we had a course called Introduction to Music, and this was the most popular course. And I felt this should become a gateway, that we should make it more interesting, we should put more things in it, we should be more demanding in terms of the students actually learning about music and not simply have to do it for the fun of it, but because, you know, music is a topic worthy of serious study, a subject which deserves real commitment. The first few semesters I would teach Introduction to Music, and I'd go and teach the first class, and then the second class, which is still within the drop-add period, I would find that maybe a third to a half of the students were different from the ones in the first class, because they had not come with the expectation that it was going to be this kind of course. But then a funny thing happened. More people started signing up for the courses, because
we started to get students who really were interested in music, and the word hit the street that you have to take it seriously, but that you would learn something, if you came and did it. Today we have 3 full-time faculty. We have 21 adjunct faculty. They include among them some of the very best performing musicians in Egypt. People we draw from the Opera House, from the Conservatoire. Naveen Aluba and Dina Iskander, both from the Opera House, have been teaching voice for us from the time that we got here. We have superior pianist. We have Munir Nasruddin teaching violin, the former director of the conservatory. The current Minister of Culture in Egypt is Ines Abdeldayem. She is a flutist. She was the leader, the music director for the Cairo Symphony Orchestra. She was the head of the Opera House before she became the Minister of Culture. But she also taught flute at the American University in Cairo, because I asked her to come and do it, and she gladly obliged for a few semesters till she got too busy. She also has performed in my orchestra. I've developed this professional orchestra, which is now an ensemble in residence within the American University in Cairo. I have found Egypt to be a wonderful place to do music. It can be very frustrating sometimes, because people have this curious attitude toward music. They love music, but they think that music is something that you do for fun. And they think furthermore that it is something that either you can do it or you can't. Either you're born being a musician or you're not, so there's no point in trying to learn. And of course, even people who come with a tremendous amount of talent need to actually learn how to do music. They have to study. They have to, you have to invest and you have to work. It doesn't just come, And we have had, a lot of fun working with people who are finding this out, with students who discover that this thing that they love and which they've always wanted to do, why, yes, they can do it. Music, there's a lot of research in the United States. They discovered that the students who took music in high schools were smarter than the students who didn't. And they wanted to figure out whether this was because smart students like music or whether the music makes you smarter. And the answer evidently is yes. It works both ways. The guys in white coats, the scientists, did all kinds of research, and they discovered that when you do music, it actually activates the different parts of your brain in a way which is much more, it's much broader than when you do other pursuits, when you do other kinds of study. And that this actually creates new pathways, and it actually develops your brain, it actually makes you smarter. Without even going into that kind of research, however, it stands to reason. If you think about what happens when a young person, an 8 or 9-year-old, is taking lessons, and they have to practice every day to prepare to go take a lesson once a week, and then those lessons once a week accumulate, and you're preparing yourself eventually to do a concert, which means you're going to get up on a stage in front of an audience and present. And it is obvious that you're learning short-term and long-term strategic thinking. You're learning to prepare for a long-term goal, then you're learning to present it to a whole bunch of people on a stage. Obviously, these skills transfer to just about anything. You can become a better businessman, a better scientist for doing music. I can't tell you how many times I've had students come into my office and say to me, oh, I used to take music. I did it when I was about 10. Then when I was 13, I had to stop because I had to get ready for college. There is no better way to get ready for college than to keep taking lessons in piano and violin and clarinet. Take your pick, anun. It is a great frustration. I feel that we are moving one foot in front of the other, but we've made immense progress.
So speaking of the talent and how can someone get into the music industry and carry on with the music, it's not necessarily the person should be talented in music to carry on in music. They could learn and attain.
There is talent and there is talent. Talent doesn't mean that you already know how to do something. You're not born able to write poetry in iambic pentameter. You have to learn. Some people are smart, some people are smarter than others, some people have particular gift for analogy, some have a particular gift. But you know, we have gifts in different directions.
Yes.
And, well, for example, the fact that you open your mouth and you can't sing right at the outset doesn't mean that you are not a singer. It just means that you haven't done it. Yeah. And curiously enough, some of the best voices are the ones which are hardest to learn how to use. When they first start singing, they don't sound good because the voice is so large that it's cumbersome, it's awkward, and it takes a lot of training to figure out how to make it sound in tune. Now, when they are children, we don't mind so much that they're making ugly sounds. We figure that's not natural because they're children. Yeah. When you have a grown-up, they get up, they try to play the violin or to sing, and they're making ugly sounds. Everyone says, "Oh, why are you doing that? You're not good at it." And the fact is, they're just not trained at it yet. But if they have the patience and they get the training, it may very well be that they can do, you know, marvelous things. It just takes time. It takes time and it takes commitment. And it's like learning a language.
Yes, sure.
You know.
In what way do you think AUC can improve the music technology here at AUC that you once said is one of a kind in the region?
The music technology program, this is a little bit different from performance. And this is actually the way that we begin. When I first came here, I didn't think we would want to major here because it didn't seem the university really thought of music in this way. But I hadn't been here for very long when I realized that Cairo is the capital of the music industry in the Arabic-speaking world. This is where all the movies come from. This is the place where they make recordings. You know, this is like the center of the broadcasting industry, of the recording industry. And there was no place for people to study in university. So I suggested this program. We actually brought a distinguished visiting professor over. We had this opportunity, someone unexpectedly canceled within my department. I don't even remember, art maybe. And so they came to me and said, do you have someone in music who you could bring to be a distinguished visiting professor this year? And I called an old friend of mine, a colleague, who is the conductor and arranger and music tech person for Stevie Wonder, and the creator of a music tech program, a very large, successful one in Alabama. And he flew over here. We actually traveled out to the new campus, which was still a shell, and we looked at the rooms for the music classrooms. Between the two music classrooms, they had a storage closet, and what they called a listening room. Listening room means there's no such thing as taking out your phone and listening to music. To listen to music, you actually need a machine dedicated to it. So in a listening library, each student would be able to sit down at a station that had a tape recorder and a vinyl record player, if you know what that is, and a reel-to-reel cassette, and they would put on earphones and they do their homework, their listening assignments. And you had to go to this room because you couldn't just pull out your phone and listen, right? Well, even then, a listening library was a dinosaur, So Henry looked at it and said, "Can we knock down this wall?" Well, the architect was there. He said, "No." Then we said, "Could we cut a window?" He said, "Yeah, we could cut a window in the wall, put in a soundproof glass, and we could make it a recording studio. A little one, but a recording studio." So that night we had supper in the Hilton Hotel, and he took a paper placemat and turned it upside down and drew from memory a diagram of what the recording studio could look like. And we took that drawing and we gave it to the technical director for the theater. And he made it into a CAD drawing and sent it to the architect. And that's why we have a recording studio at the AUC. We went out, got a grant, we put $500,000 of equipment in it. It's a project studio, it's tiny, but it is cutting edge in Egypt. Then we added, we found another room that no one wanted, and we put more equipment in that, and that's our digital mixing lab. How can we improve our program? Well, the same way everybody else does. We could use another professor, because we have a superior guy running them. You understand, I don't know music technology. I cannot teach music technology. I'm a performer. Wael Mehelawi is an outstanding Arab musician. He played the Anun in the first Taht in the Opera House for a while, and now he is, he's a superb Arab musician. He's also one of the sound engineers who does stuff in Egypt. And every Ramadan when you watch television, you're going to see lots and lots of shows that he's mixed the sound for. Yeah. He's the one who teaches our guys music tech, but he's the only one there. And we really could use another person to also be teaching, who's capable of teaching music technology, and that's not so easy to find. By the way, he also does Western music. He takes a few piano students for us when we need him to. We're very flexible, we guys. There are 3 of us full-time, and we help each other out, and we take overload students. I always take a few voice students, some piano students.
Okay. Can you tell me your role and the music department role in general during the centennial?
Sure. Well, I should point out that we're not a department, we're a program. It's the Department of the Arts, and it's huge. It's like a little school, because we've got visual art, we have film, theater, we have graphic design, and we have both performance and music technology. Music, one of the great things I've been able to do here at AUC is to assist with providing music for ritual. Okay, one of our distinguished professors passes away, okay, and we do a memorial ceremony. It always is nice to have music, and I've had the opportunity to provide music for Medhat Haroun, George Scanlon. When George Scanlon passed away, he actually specified what pieces of music he wanted the choir to sing. And of course, we sang them, My dear friend and mentor, Fadl Asabki, may he rest in peace. I was so happy to play the harpsichord and to chant. There was a particular piece he loved to hear the chamber singers chant. So we do lots of music. Well, in the centennial, of course, we just did Jala's concert. Yeah. On a week from now, Wael Mehelawi will be directing this Saeed Darwish project. And this was something cooked up between him and Alaeddin Adris, the Associate Provost for Research, Innovation, and Creativity, got to get the title right, who loves music, who is just, he's been an immense energizing force in pushing the centennial forward. And he's the one who originally suggested doing a performance of an operetta of Saeed Darwish. And of course, they date from 1919, around the time of our establishment. It's also the time of the Sultan Zaghloul revolution. Yes, so he wrote like 6 operettas. What we ended up doing is taking something like 22 or 24 songs from a number of these different operettas. And Wael has put together a firqa and a professional ensemble of singers, and 2 soloists, which include Nesba Mahgoub, our first graduate as a Bachelor of Musical Arts from the AUC. And by the way, she is now directing our pop ensemble, which has 40 students this year, and it's flourishing. And teaching some voice for us, popular, and also Arab music and some classical music. And of course, she performs with me, and we do early music. We do, she sings sometimes with the orchestra. We do classical music as well. She is one of the soloists for the Saeed Darwish project. Dr. Well has recorded all of these tracks, and we're going to publish this recording, okay, as an archival project for the university. It is my hope that we will eventually, when we have the time to think about what we're doing, create a record label, an AUC record label, and that again will enhance the reputation of our music tech program. And when we do, we have this orchestra that I've been developing. When we, for example, performed the symphony that I composed a few years ago, we also made a recording, and this could be published on the label. Every other year we do a concert of AUC performance majors who do concertos and arias, and the orchestra accompanies them, and we make a recording. And then they can use that recording to further their careers, their YouTube vids, but also good recordings that we make, and we can put those on a label. Yeah. The third concert that we're doing for the centennial after Saeed Darwish is the faculty showcase. We'll do on April 17, and that one will be Dr. Wael and Dr. Chelsea Green playing a guitar concerto. Wael will do a piece for Anun and orchestra, which might be the piece I'm supposed to be writing for him right now if I finish it. Dina Iskander and Nesma will both sing music with the orchestra, and we may have some other faculty performing with us. I'm not going to say yet because it's not settled yet. And then in May, we mentioned that I composed a requiem mass when I was a doctoral student. At that time, of course, I used students, graduate students who were playing in the orchestra, and they were soloists. And the mezzo soloist at that time, who sang the premiere of that piece in 1986, this last May, she was hired to be a professor of voice, one of 25 voice teachers at Indiana University Jacobs School. She's coming back to sing the piece again. She's going to come in May. Okay, Jala will be the other mezzo.
They will both perform.
It has quartet and combined choirs because we're using the Cairo Celebration Choir, which is a wonderful community chorus directed by my dear friend and colleague Nayar Nagy. My Cairo Choral Society, which I somehow haven't mentioned. I don't know how I got this far without mentioning that I am the director of the Cairo Choral Society, which is a wonderful community chorus in town. About half of them are expatriates and the other half are Egyptians, and we do regular performances of choral orchestral repertory. Our rehearsals in English, the celebration choir rehearses in Arabic. But we are going to combine our choir. We've been saying for 13 years that we would combine, and now we're finally going to do it. We're going to use the festival orchestra, and this concert we will perform here on campus at the Malak Gabor, I think, Theater in the Ewart Hall, and then the next day we'll do it in the Biblioteca.
So it will be on 2 days?
It'll be 2 days in Cairo and a third day in Alex.
Okay.
Okay, so 3 performances.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr.
What a great pleasure.
It was an honor having you with us here. Thank you so much. We wish you the best of luck in your next concert. That was it for today. See you next week with an exclusive guest and exclusive stories in our show, 31 Minutes.